You gotta just chill out, man.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, and welcome back to another edition of the Scho Bro Show. This is Steel Curtain Network editor Dave Schofield coming at you Tuesday night, a little bit after 9 p.m. Where else would you rather be, Steelers fans? With me as always, except when he's not, is my big brother Rich. Unfortunately, I don't think it's my fault, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But how you doing tonight, Rich?
Whew, I'm a little tired, but let's see. And I do have to ask: is it welcome back to another episode, or welcome back to another edition? Because it sounded like you kind of slurred the two of them together.
Oh yeah, you know how it's going.
I do.
I'm racing through a lot of stuff. I've got to say something. Okay,
we're gonna talk about I got to be thinking this for Aloha from Maui.
Yes, there we go.
Thank you, Chaka Steele.
Dr. Steele.
Aloha from Maui.
Okay. All right. So here you go. I'll tell you, this is going to be a very different show. But first, I got to say this. Rich could not breathe in the sweet smell of victory. He couldn't breathe in the air. And I have to say, I will admit, you've had at least 12 hours for to clear out from where you can't blame the stanky air in your house on me. Yes, that's right. I've actually spent the last
No. We weren't together, but what time did you leave here today?
Well, that's true. It wasn't until after 1 o'clock.
Yeah, don't even say 12 hours. So I've hardly had any time.
I'm just sitting in the bathroom's just around the corner there. I've been clear of that.
No.
Yeah. Because here's what's crazy. This is going to be the first and likely only night in a week span some's already happened, some's about to happen, that I won't be at your house. This is my one night that I'm going to be at home. So I'm going to share with everyone. Some people may have been asking. I put it out there a couple hours ago on Twitter finally. People might have been wondering where I've been. I've been doing a few.
Been at my house.
Yeah, I've been at your house. Some people might have been. I've done a few of my articles. Some of them, I'll be honest with you, even Jeff's been filling in with stuff that's even some of my things. Wasn't able to do last minute thoughts. I wasn't on the post game show, and I'll go ahead and tell you now. There'll be something else special in place of Pittsburgh Standard Time this week, and there's an extremely slim chance of me being on the preview this week because I've been out of town. I've been up at Rich's house a lot, and part of the reason I went with the title of our show tonight of One Steelers Loss is Not the End of the World is because although Rich and I sat together, this is a different show. Rich and I watched this game together on Sunday.
We did.
I've been at Rich's house for a long time. Unfortunately, it was not under better circumstances. I've been up at Rich's house as we've been taking care of stuff, but because our mother passed away on Saturday evening. I was up there for the day to visit her on a scheduled visit anyway, and it just so happened that I was there. We knew she was going downhill. We didn't know how long she had, and actually she didn't have all that long after she really started to go downhill, which is kind of sad, but also kind of a blessing at the same time. But so Rich and I have been together an awful lot, but we've been dealing with an awful lot. Rich, not as much because he's still got to been at his house. My life's kind of been in a bit of an upheaval as we go through that. So, but people are like, you don't have to do any shows or anything this week. Jeff, Brian, they've been covering so much for me. But I asked Rich, I'm like, you want to still do the show? He's like, absolutely. Why, yep. Rich?
Because this is our family too.
Yes. We needed our Steelers family. We really do. So we're here because we want to be with you guys. That's honestly what's going on, because we want to be with you guys. All of Steel Curtain Network, all of our staff has been fantastic with just being very supportive with everything. Even one Jeremy Betts, who is he's been out of commission because he lives in Western North Carolina.
He lives in Asheville.
He lives in the Asheville area.
Yeah.
So luckily we were able to find out on Saturday. I found out, before our mom passed. Of course, she's my mom. She's your mom too. That we'd finally, because Corey put it out there. Corey Eckenroth put it out there. It's like, has anyone been able to hear from Jeremy? And we're like, no, we're hoping, with everything. But we honestly, we didn't expect to because we knew of everything going on. Luckily, we were able to hear from Jeremy, and that they're there now. I still don't think he has power yet. I haven't heard that it's been back, but we've been doing with our own stuff. So
has he even gone home yet? Because I knew he headed off towards the Charlotte area.
Yeah,
when they finally got out of there. I haven't heard if he's gone back.
Because I've been a little bit out of the loop with everything. So
yeah.
So that was really good to know that that him and his family are safe. Lots of losses of possessions, but it's good to know that they're it could be a whole lot worse and everything. So but Rich and I are here. If you don't follow me on X, that's at STLR Superfan Dad. I did put a post out there. It was a picture of my mom and I at her first Steelers game, which was she's 2-0 all time at the stadium.
Yep.
She was able to go with my dad and I. What it is I put my mom and dad in my season ticket seats. They were in the 122 crew. I actually bought one seat. It was a single seat, next section over, one row forward, right in sight. One of the games I was able to move over with them because there was no one else sitting there after halftime. But we were able to watch the Steelers beat the Raiders in 2015 and the Steelers beat the Jets in 2016. The Raiders game was the infamous Antonio Brown going off for 200 and some yards. And it was I cannot. Landry Jones had to come in at the very end of that game for that one, and the other one was the Sammy Coates Jets game. That's where he had his 2 touchdowns, mangled his hands. It was never the same. So that's like I always say, Mama Scho undefeated at Heinz Field. Yes, it was Heinz Field at the time, but she had an autoimmune disease that she had for 17 years. And it got to a point she went to those 2 games. It was tough for her to go because she had to learn to walk again in early 2011. So, but I still got to watch that last Steelers Super Bowl with her. She still made it to my house, even though she was learning again how to walk. So, but she was able to walk better and enough to go to 2 games, but then it just got to be too much. So. Well, Rich, we've talked about that enough, unless you have more you would like to say, or would you like to talk about Steelers?
What are we here for? Let's talk Steelers.
We're here to talk Steelers. So I just wanted to put the little Steelers twist on everything. So I sat on your couch watching this game. So we got to talk an awful lot about what we were seeing, where typically we don't even speak at all until the show. And if we do, we try not to have it be about the Steelers, just so we can really... this is just 2 brothers talking about the game. But we can still talk about the game. Let's real first hit some news. The Steelers made some roster moves today. I don't have all the names straight right now. I know they placed James Daniels on IR. They signed another offensive lineman who has experience in the NFL. They signed him off of Washington's practice squad. The name is escaping me right now. So
I'll have it for you.
Hopefully you'll get it for me.
Hold on. Max Sharping.
That's it. Okay, I've typed it. I just hadn't done it. So that was one signing, but they also released 2 other players off their 53-man roster. They released cornerback Darius Rush, and they released safety Jalen Elliott. They also swapped a couple players in and out of the practice squad as well. But it's interesting that they made the moves to go ahead and clear those players, and they only have 51. Something I noticed on Steelers.com is they actually have 53 players on the depth chart. They've added back Jeremiah Moon and Dylan Cook, who were designated to return on the IR before the Steelers cut down to 53. They were going to count as 2 of the 8 no matter what, even if they never came back. Now, could it have been a glitch with their system that they just had them off the depth chart for 4 weeks and there was was the cut and paste component the cut and paste component? they wouldn't even have to put them back. They could practice this week and not even be on the roster if the Steelers choose to. They wouldn't have to put them on until 4:00 Saturday. So some people think they could maybe make it another move. Rich, they're really depleted at cornerback on the roster. What do you take of the anything particular you want to say about the Steelers roster moves?
The roster moves are the roster moves, and don't. I mean, how many Tomlinisms do you want here? Let's not read too much into it based on what we're doing. We'll make the decisions, make the moves when we need to make the moves. When we figure we need guys, we'll bring the guys. Hey, whatever.
Yeah. So I just find it very interesting. Here's another interesting thing on the Steelers depth chart. The Steelers only have 3 cornerbacks listed on the depth chart. They have 4 on the roster, but they're missing 1. I don't know if it's a cut and paste component thing once again, but there's no James Pierre, which I find very interesting. I don't think that's reading into anything too much. I just think that's an error. So I just think it's, but yeah, that those kind of things are going. Here's something I want to bring up. Shock the Steel again. It says Sutton returns shortly. Actually, Cam Sutton can return to the facility for meetings this week, but I don't think can practice yet. He has to wait 2 more weeks before he can practice, but he's allowed in the building to work out and I think to attend meetings for 2 more weeks. And then then after 2 more weeks, he can go in there. So, Rich, this is a team that's starting, especially on the offensive line. Man, those injuries are starting to stack up.
They are. They're starting to pile up. But what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? You keep going. Next man up. That's all you can do.
Yes. So, but at the same time, the Steelers also have to make adjustments to their rosters to make sure that the lines aren't too short. Anything else news-wise you want to cover? You ready to dive into talking about this first loss of the season?
Oh, let's talk about the game.
Yes.
If we gotta.
No, I brought it up last week. I talked about the week 4 curse. That the Steelers, it's just that typical letdown point of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It really is. They are now, under Mike Tomlin, 5-11 in week 4. They only have one other week of the season that they don't have a winning record, and that's week 14, where they are 8-9. So it just seems like it's one of those things. I also talked about how since it's been 2004, because there's been a couple years where there were bye weeks in week four, but since 2004 was the last time the Steelers won one in week 3 and carried that on to win one in week 4 as well. It just seems like it's that. I don't know what I can't. Is it the final game of the first quarter of the season when you break it into quarters? I just don't know. But once again, we saw it right off the bat, and I'm frankly just going to say it. Didn't the first quarter of that game on Sunday feel an awful lot like Houston last year?
Well, you sat here with me and heard me sit on the couch. I felt like it was a Steelers playoff game of the recent years.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to go there.
just neither side of the ball doing anything at the beginning, and you get far behind, and then you're trying to dig your way out the entire rest of the game.
Yes. Yeah. Someone talking in the background.
No.
I feel like this. Like I hear a voice.
Oh, maybe you do. Hold on. Might have been coming from my phone, ironically.
It might be coming from your phone. I'm like, are we sending subliminal messages on here on Scho Bro? But
it's funny because my phone's muted, but
yeah, so
it was my phone.
Yeah. So
there,
all right.
Hold on. He brought it up. Wrong one. There you go. He asked.
Oh, yeah.
John
No,
S. says, Dave, is that one of the new Salute Service hats? Love the digital camo.
Yes, this is one of the brand new ones. It came in the mail yesterday. I wasn't here to get it. I came home today, got it, and said, I'm wearing this for the show tonight. This one probably won't get worn outside of the house for a while because I want to keep it nice and everything and wear it for shows. I actually have, my goodness, even my golf hat's a Steelers hat, but it's my sweat hat. I have work hats that are Steeler hats. I've got ones that I wear in the rain, ones that that's just what I do for sure. I know we have a super chat, but I want to bring something up. Okay. Big G, Sean Gurley, not putting a lot of blame, but the holding calls against Watt and the other Steeler defensive players was horrible. The All-22 film was really bad with no calls. Now, you're right, but it's not as many as you think. Were there blatant holding calls where they were behind Watt, hooking him around the waist and things of that nature that were holds? Absolutely.
I saw 3. I got 3 in particular.
But this would have been a perfect time if I was still there. I could actually show it on the screen. This is something that I've known this is the rule for a while. And sometimes this is why they're not all holding. When you see a guy, quote unquote, choking TJ Watt, that's probably not a hold by rule. Because the way it works, and it would be so much easier if I was showing it on you right now, but I'm just going to have to explain it. Honestly, Alan Saunders put something out on YouTube a few weeks ago about it that explained it really well. But it's called, what is TJ Watt's number one move? It's a rip move. The problem is when you rip, there's things that look like holds that technically aren't supposed to be called. If the offensive player gets his hands on your chest, which is what they do, and then the rip move is to either try to break contact, or a lot of times you would try to hit one of the arms and you bring your arm, you rip it underneath to try to come up underneath them. If their hand is on your chest and you do a move like that, they technically, if they don't lose contact, they can hold their contact, and whatever the defender does as a result of that is not the fault of the offense. Does that make sense? So if I put my hand on the chest and he does the rip move, and the way he comes under it puts him across my arm where it looks like I'm across him, as long as I didn't give up where I had the position, it's technically not a hold.
Right.
The problem with that is if you take a snapshot of it, it's hard to see, did the offensive player have that the whole time?
Yeah, but
you
I'm
literally
sitting
could
right
just do it and put your arm around his neck. And if the official didn't see you do it at that time, they might have thought, well, that's the result of a rip move.
No,
So,
I'm telling you, there's 3 things in particular I saw, okay? All of which were holds, okay? One, lost, TJ gets around, you grab him by the waist, you spin him around. That's a hold.
That's a hold. Obviously, yes.
There was one where TJ Watt was basically by, you grab his jersey at the back of his shoulder pad. That's a hold. Ready? Here's the fun one. TJ Watt gets by, you grab him by the arm.
Yes. I saw that.
That's a hold. Okay. So those were there.
I saw a screenshot, I think, of 5 or 6 of them, and 2 of them weren't technically holds, but all the rest of them were. Yeah.
Now, for me, here's my bigger issue. Those things weren't getting called. This, and this is where you just have lots of questions. This officiating crew that were doing the Steelers game this past weekend had thrown the second most number of penalty flags of any crew in the NFL.
Yeah. Only behind.
And then this week,
Blakeman was the other one that was the worst. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Only for them to, I think, it's almost like they took that to heart as a crew and said, we don't want that to be us, so they stuffed them all in their pocket this weekend.
Well, and that's the thing. I believe, now they called that pass interference on Joey Porter Jr. That was very ticky-tack. But the reason I think that one shouldn't have been called is because did Porter make contact? But did he impede the offensive player from catching the ball? No. Do you want to know how we know? Because he caught the ball.
Because he got the ball.
How do you say the pass interference, Now, there is a difference if you can't. Yes, you could tackle a guy and he could still catch the ball, but the way that was working with Porter was a little bit different. We already know. I was listening to Coach Tomlin's press conference on delay when I was driving back today, because that was another one. Jeff Hartman, thank you again. He covered the Mike Tomlin press conference podcast for me today. And so I'm listening to it and hear him say that he wanted clarification on that call. He didn't use Minka Fitzpatrick's name, but that's the one he was talking about. And he's like, because I wanted clarification what was wrong. He says, I didn't like it. New York didn't like it. So in other words, they admit, and then Coach Tom says, but that doesn't really help me on Monday.
Right.
But at least it acknowledged that New York said, no, that's not what that was supposed to be. It's not. So they threw some calls that you're like, shouldn't have been there. But I mean, on that one, was that towards the end or on a key place where George Pickens, it seemed like let's just say this. If the one they called on Joey Porter Jr. was pass interference, that deeper shot to George Pickens was as well.
Yes.
They're either both penalties or neither penalties. You can't call one and not the other.
Right. And what you look for in officiating, and for me, it's always why I'll get on baseball umpires here and there, is what I'm looking for is consistency.
Yeah.
I always get on an umpire. If a pitch is thrown in a spot and it's a strike in the first inning, when you get to the seventh inning, the same pitch better be a strike.
Yes. Or what you're calling a ball. Like,
correct.
I mean, I've watched where someone sent me a reel of like a little league game where apparently maybe it was a blowout or something, but as long as the pitch didn't hit the dirt, the pitch was no joke outside of the batter's box outside, and the umpire's calling it a strike because he just wants the game to be over. Now, I mean, you're talking that bad with some of the stuff. I mean, but you're right. If they're going to give you the bottom outside corner, the low outside corner in the first inning, you should have it in the eighth.
Right.
If they don't give it to you in the first inning, you shouldn't have it in the eighth either. You're right. So,
and now you could make an argument that because there was so little holding called that they were just letting holding go all game.
Yeah, that they're like, well, we're going to those other things. We're just going to let them all go. And my question is, if they're going to let them all go, then why the crap weren't the Steelers doing it more?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. But Sean, Big G following up, and he's right here. It's just fact safe, but it was multiple holds against Watt. Yeah, trust me, there were plenty of holds against TJ Watt that should have been holds. But just remember, everything that looks like a hold, I was just making the point, and I know Big G knows this as well, that just because every one of them looks like a hold doesn't mean it's a hold. But there were plenty of those that game that there's no way you could say that was because of a rip move, because his body was clear of it. So, but he says multiple holds against Watt, Hayward, Herbig, Benton, Queen, horrible calls against the Steelers DBs. Minka and JPJ was a horrible call. George Pickens had several no-call pass interference as well. Exactly. So,
yeah, you just.
I mean, we can sit it now. I'm going to tell you this. That is not why the Steelers lost the game. I don't care.
Well, no, because they had every chance to win it anyway, and just didn't do it.
We can say the officiating was bad, not say that's where the Steelers lost. We're not. It's not like if it was good officiating, the Steelers would have won. I'm not going to say that, because guess what? The officiating, when officiating is inept, both teams have to deal with it. And to me, I think the Steelers should have adjusted and pushed the limits more on the offensive line if they were paying attention to what was happening to their defensive line.
Yep.
And if it got called, that's when you go ballistic. I don't know. Was there? I don't think were the Steelers ever called for a hold?
I don't think so.
On offense at all? Yeah, I don't know what it is. Someone brought up something where I'm going to get to that one a little bit, but I gotta hit up Tyler W. Got to hit up Tyler W. $5 in the tip jar. Says good news about our banged up O line. Our only healthy running back excels running off tackle, and the fans are really lifting 22 up when we need him most. Not okay. Yeah.
That for those that didn't understand, that was sarcasm.
Yes, that was sarcasm. That's what we call sarcasm. It was really evident. I don't want to sit here and rip on Najee Harris, but I don't know if it was specifically the team they were playing. I don't know if it was just that game. Some people say, no, you just watch, it'll be all the time. It just seemed even more this time. So when Cordero Patterson got in there and they're like, what's the difference? One word jumped to mind. I almost said it while we were watching the game, and I didn't. I got sidetracked in my head. And then I thought about it at another time. Why was Cordero Patterson having success running the ball where Najee Harris wasn't? He was skedaddling.
Skedaddling. Yeah, he was.
This is not a skedaddler.
Right.
He's not.
He knew where the play was called to go. Patterson did not wait to look to see if any blocks or anything were setting up. He just took the ball and went. And
you could see he was sliding and slicing through.
Yes.
He wasn't trying to power through or run through. He was trying to, and he wasn't slowing down an open field juking. He was cutting, but he was constantly zigzagging as he was going.
He was constantly doing that, taking those hips, doing that sideways turn and trying to slide by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he was doing. So, and honestly, based on the Steelers' offensive line and other things, that was working. So you honestly have to ask yourself, is the Najee Harris style of running? People say he doesn't have vision, he can't see the hole, and blah blah blah. Maybe that's the case. I'm not going to judge that as much. I know I'm just trying not to have the hot take, but he doesn't skedaddle up in there and make himself small to fit through and explode. It's like the big bruising back. And I don't think the Steelers are actually, I don't know. I don't want to go as far to say they're not built that way as much as I would say they weren't playing that way on Sunday.
Yeah, they were not playing that way on Sunday.
No.
And it's funny, we're sitting here talking about the skedaddler back. Do you know that's what made Jerome Bettis so good?
Because not only could he be that power back that could just run through and hit the hole, but he could squeeze.
Yes.
He could squeeze.
Yes. He could get skinny and try to get through spots. And that, to me, that's what made Jerome Bettis so good. He was both.
And why does Najee Harris try to jump over people? Because he can't scoot around them.
Yep.
That was what, yeah, you're right. With the bus, he could even scoot around people. So we're going to go ahead and take our break. I want to come back and bring up, it's an old thing in the live chat. I know we have another super chat in there. I haven't even looked at it yet because I was sticking with this one because I know it's going to get you going. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to break so that way we can get a word from our sponsors, come back and finish up doing our things, getting into a little bit different stuff with a different outlook because we watched the game together. But if you're with us here on YouTube, X, Facebook, we're not going anywhere. If you're with us here on the audio side, stick around. We'll be right back after these messages.
Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, don't worry, relax. Relax, don't worry, no rush, what's the hurry? Relax, don't worry, relax.
Relax. Don't worry. Steelers are still 3-1. They're exactly what I thought they would be when the schedule came out. And I thought I was being pretty optimistic that the Steelers would be 3-1.
Oh, look.
Or even the 3-1 in the games that I originally predicted. So I'm going to go back and start predicting those again.
I'm telling you, am I a little down after this game? I'm a little down because that was a very winnable game for the Steelers. Even as things went bad, they had opportunities to win that game, and I'd have loved to have been 4-0. But if you'd have asked me back when training camp started, if after 4 games I would be happy if the Steelers were 3-1, I'd have said, heck yeah, I'm going to take that all day and twice on Sundays.
Now let me ask you this.
Okay.
If I'd have told you that Russell Wilson was so injured he was the third quarterback those first 4 games, how would you feel?
Oh, I'd have thought there's no way we'd go 3-1.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into Justin Fields here because I know that's a big topic of discussion. It's very polarizing with a lot of people. But first, this is just for you, Big Bro. Just when I'm hearing you voice in, because that's what something that what you like to do a lot to get your thoughts out for knee jerk. The article is to just say your thoughts while you're watching the game. That's literally what the article is. But this is from Brian Morrow. Can we all agree that the zone defense doesn't work?
Okay, it's not that the zone defense doesn't work, but the zone defense can't be predictable. And that's what the Steelers were on Sunday. When we would get to third down and long, we definitely dropped into zone every time. Well, if you drop into zone against a veteran quarterback like Joe Flacco,
just like Sherry Richards said here,
and you do not get pressure up front, he's going to kill you.
Yeah.
And he did. See, we continued to drop and do this. Now, would those things have worked against Anthony Richardson? I think they probably could have, because what you're hoping is, even if you don't get full pressure, any kind of pressure, you're hoping then that guy makes a mistake and throws a pick here or there, or just throws the ball at the wrong guy or something like that. But we sat in that zone on third downs in particular, and Joe Flacco killed us.
Yes.
And I hate losing to the unibrow.
Yeah.
What? Hello?
Did I just see it there that it's Wes's birthday? Did I miss that?
Yes.
In there?
No, you missed that a little bit. Yes. It's
Happy
Wes's
birthday, Wes.
too.
He's Palomalu. That's a good one.
Yes, he is. He's Palomalu.
I was looking for this. Heel Dog 88, $2. Starting to see the reason Najee's 50th year was axed.
I don't know if that's the reason, but I think there's a slight bit of truth to that. It's not.
Has he really done anything outside of volume, outside of availability, and what he gets based on volume that's really stood out that you couldn't get otherwise? I'm not saying that's the case. I'm asking the question. Those who make that argument, I don't think I could say that they're wrong.
Yeah, I don't think his play has lived up the fifth-year option, which is why the Steelers didn't pick it up.
Yeah. And he was much more effective in the passing game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
they got him out there in space where he didn't have to be clunky through the line.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't think Najee didn't have an impact in this game.
Yeah.
Because he did.
Yeah.
He just didn't when we were handing it off to him.
Yeah. Yeah. Ryan Brown wanted to know if Joe Flacco shaved his unibrow. Sorry, I'm still catching up because of holding back on everything else. But yeah, I was getting frustrated. You were saying to cover two. I heard someone else say this because I thought they were actually in cover 3, which is what we ran as our pass defense when I was coaching freshman football. But you got deep thirds.
Yeah, and because
what you have, and then other stuff underneath.
And which is a lot of the times then we were playing cover 3, and we weren't setting an extra rusher, so we were just rushing 4.
Yeah,
and you can say it was because of the holds, and you might be true, but it doesn't matter if there were holds going on or not. The pass rush wasn't getting home and doing what you needed it to be able to play cover 3 on 3rd and 10s.
Yeah.
Against Joe Flacco. Again, I'll bring it against Joe Flacco. Maybe it works against Richardson, but it was not going to work against Joe Flacco.
Yes, I feel that if it would have been Richardson in there on 3rd and long, throwing into the zone with the Steelers hopefully trying to get some kind of pressure on him. Remember, people, you are looking at likely the best offensive line in the NFL. Remember that. Steelers still have a pretty good defensive line, but they were going up against who is likely the best offensive line in the NFL. They were also going up against a head coach that has just kind of figured out how to score points on the Steelers defense. back when he was the coordinator in Philadelphia, and now with the Colts. It's just sometimes it's one of those things, kind of like there are certain, kind of like Brian Flores on defense being able to stifle Lamar Jackson. It's just one of those matchups that they have figured out that you could say as well. So there's a lot of factors to it. But I didn't like this. It took them too long to realize that wasn't going to work. But at the same time, the Colts defense did something that I thought was a little head scratching. Why did I think the Steelers were able to come back into the game? Now, the Steelers part of this was the Steelers were able to dictate this somewhat with what they were doing. So I don't want to just say the Colts screwed it up. I think, honestly, the Steelers offense was doing some things to not allow the Colts to send crazy blitz pressures in the passing game. When the Colts were only rushing 4, the Steelers were doing just fine and scoring points, honestly. But during those, my goodness, we look at the one play with the fumble out of stacked out of field goal range and fumble, which that's one of those things that they let the play on the field go. They call it a fumble on the field because that allows it to be reviewed for free. But what's the problem with that?
Then you have to show it the other way.
Then you have to prove it's the other way.
I don't think you'd have proved it either way.
And honestly, I said this at times last year. I don't like it. I feel that the officials are told to have it be a turnover so it can be reviewed. I believe that's what they're told.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it makes them make a call they don't believe in, and then it gets upheld because you can't overturn it. I still think Justin Fields, the ball might have been moving, whether he lost, the ball can be moving around, but you haven't lost complete control. I don't know if he lost it and got control back or hadn't even fully lost it. And his knee was down and he was touched.
No, his forearm went down.
Yeah, I said his knee. It was his elbow. Yeah. So now, the only thing that would have changed was the Steelers would have punted rather than the Colts get the ball there. And the defense held. And they missed the field goal. So ultimately, that was it didn't change points. Yeah, just taking that safety there. Look at the opportunities the Steelers had to get more points on the board.
Yep.
Fumble inside the 5. Sack and fumble to take you out of field goal range when you were in field goal range. And I'll still go back to, still can't believe they didn't go for the 58-yarder on the opening drive.
Yeah.
Look, I understand not doing it on your opening drive. But they went for a 57-yarder in Atlanta. And they could have lined up only 7 yards deep rather than 8, like they did when he went for the 62-yarder. They shaved off a yard. You could have even tried to force it as a 57-yarder that he had already done in a dome.
To me,
it's also and that was on the first drive.
To me, it just went to show. I think it spoke to what the Steelers were taking into their philosophy for that game, but they took the philosophy. I think I even said it on the show last week. I could understand if you do the philosophy, but they went too soft with it.
Yeah.
Okay. I said the Steelers defensively were going to try to play a strong defense and wait for Richardson to make a mistake. Stop the run, wait for Richardson to make a mistake. And I feel that what they did instead of doing that was let's not take any risks on defense. The defense went too soft, the philosophy on it. But the Steelers played that at that first drive. After they gave up the touchdown to open it up, the Steelers didn't go for that field goal, said, we're going to punt it, stick them down there deep because our defensive philosophy is going to win this. And what do? You give up another touchdown.
One play and they were within 5 yards of where that ball, or 6 yards, where that ball would have been placed anyway.
Yes.
One play later, they were with basically back to what the Steelers' line of scrimmage was if they would have kicked it there. So you pin them deep, didn't work. I think it would have done a lot to get points on that first drive. It would have helped the defense anyway. Tyler W puts $5 in the tip jar, says, Watt has given his blood, sweat, and tears for the Steelers to get 99.5 sacks, but Austin can't scheme a single blitz to get him 100. Sticks in my craw. I'll be honest with you.
I think
You and I actually talked about this. Or did I hear from somebody else? I can't remember. Everything's running together in my head. Of people that said, boy, it would be nice for TJ to get 100 at home. But they were thinking about him getting it in week 3. And he didn't. Not that he would get shut out in week 4.
Yeah, and I think what happened there is, I think the whole idea, I think the philosophy going in was that they weren't going to scheme up a blitz at all, because I think the whole thought was we're going to get just enough pressure with 4, and Richardson's going to make mistakes, and we're going to have the guys there to cover them. And it just didn't work.
Yeah. Rich, before we move on to the pretty big debatable topic, I know you talked last week about how this team played more complementary football. They feel like a team and not just 2 separate units. But we're going to put out in 2 separate units. Which one do you put more of the blame on for this loss?
Oh, the defense.
Absolutely. That's an easy question. But I was just setting you up.
Yeah. It just definitely on the defense. The Steelers scored 24 points and hadn't given up more than 10. Really, I mean, they were averaging, 8 and change that they were averaging giving up a game?
Yep.
They gave up more points than they did in the first 3 games combined.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that the offense, there weren't pick sixes involved, and you say, well, George Pickett's
The turnovers did not, the Steelers have not given up a point off of turnovers this year. Not one. 0.
So it was not the offense that gave it up. It was that when the defense needed stops, they didn't get them.
And you could say, the turnovers, they took away points on the board. But the Steelers still had to get to over 27 points to win the game. And you're saying, I'm not saying that they can't, but that's not the way this team is designed. It's really not. If you listen to Jeff Hartman's Let's Ride on Monday, which I was able to do, not on Monday, but I was able to listen to it. He talked about when he coached lacrosse, it was their rule of 10. If you get to 10 goals, our defense should not be giving up 10 goals in lacrosse. And he uses a kind of a rule of 20 for the Steelers. Okay, if the offense gets you 20 points, the defense should be able to keep the opponent to 20 points or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the defense just didn't do it.
Yeah. And I mean, people were saying, those turnovers hurt. Yeah, I get you. Like Big G and more than other ones were saying that. I get you. But all that did was take away from more that the offense had to do to cover for the defense not getting the job done. Fair?
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's crazy for us to think that the Steelers defense shouldn't give up more than 20 points a week.
Yeah.
The defense is and should be that good. They had an off week.
Yes.
And I will say this. As long as it's 1, I don't have a problem.
2 is a pattern.
2 is a pattern. 3 is a problem.
Yes. So we're going to get to because I know we're running late, but it's okay because we are going to get to just some Justin Fields stuff. With that, because we have to. It's the law. We have to follow the law.
It's the law.
But what this showed you was the offense wasn't perfect enough to make up for a game where the defense couldn't do it.
Yeah.
The offense played pretty good.
And
if they played perfect and not turned either of those, not turned it over, not taking that sack/fumble, you're talking about 10 more points.
And
or at least 6.
How many times last year did we just invert that statement?
Yeah.
and say the defense played well, but they didn't play perfect enough to overcome the shortcomings of the offense.
Oh yeah, because you lose a game 16-3. You know what I mean? Or 13-10. Or so. I mean, I don't even know if any of those scores were scores from last year. I'm just throwing them out there. But like that, where you're like, wow, this defense held them to only 14, 13 points. And the offense couldn't do enough to win the game. This time, the offense put up 24 points, which isn't, that's not world breaking at all. But think about how many times we said at 24 points, that out of an average, that would be phenomenal for the offense. And they put up that amount. But by the way the Steelers are constructed, where it is more about the defense, and it's okay that it's not okay, but it's going to happen that one of the units just doesn't have it. The matchup isn't right. The other teams, what do you know? Those other teams and their coaches get paid a lot of money to try to be able to figure you out as well. So there's just going to be times where the other units got to cover, and the offense almost covered. I just can't believe that we were talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers having the ball with just over 2 minutes left of the game with a chance to tie or win the game when they were down 17-0 just into the second quarter.
Yeah.
After the Colts' first 3 possessions.
Yeah. Took the offense a little bit to get going, but they got it going.
Yeah. So let's go ahead. What was your overall thoughts about Justin Fields and everything going on there?
Okay. Justin Fields been playing good football.
Yeah.
He still has a Justin Fields moment every once in a while, but you're going to have to live with that for now because he's still trying to work all that out, and he is still Justin Fields.
Yes.
You know, you don't go from carbon to a diamond overnight.
Yes.
There is a process.
Yeah.
And Justin Fields is still in that process, and the process has been going well for Justin Fields.
I agree. Better than I thought it would have.
Correct. But it's not it's not a totally finished product yet.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to quote Brian Anthony Davis, you're going to have to live with a few of those pimples here and there from Justin Fields. But
what
he's been doing pretty good, and he's a pretty dynamic player. Like, we're starting to see the Justin Fields that the Chicago Bears were hoping they were getting.
Yeah.
But they didn't do anything to get him to that. And thankfully for the Steelers, we have.
Yeah. What did I say to you during that game when Justin Fields made that horrible play of I just wanted him to even if he would have thrown the ball and taken an intentional grounding before running backwards would have been better than the running backwards that he did. I mean, they just sent 2 players on a blitz that the Steelers couldn't block. He needed to hit the hot read, and it was just a moment of hesitation, and he's running for his life.
Yep.
And that's how it all went down. What did I say to you when we were watching the game? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
I will tell you what I said.
Justin Fields moment.
I said this next drive
Oh yes,
could very well
That's right.
determine. I don't know, because I put it on Twitter. That's why I said this next drive after what happened with that last one with Justin Fields will have a huge. Might tell you everything that you'll need to know about Justin Fields' Steelers career. How is he going to come back after that play that took them out of field goal range and all but put them basically had the Colts in field goal range when they got the ball? How does he respond to that? How do you respond to that, Rich?
He responded to that pretty well.
The next 3 drives were touchdowns.
Yeah. Put it behind
That
him.
told me a lot.
Yep.
Yes.
It showed me that there's 2 things I kind of took from that. One, it showed me that he has a level of confidence in himself. And it also gave me an idea that he feels there is a level of confidence in him from the coaching staff.
Yeah. And I can't remember what show it was, if it was with you. And they're like, oh, well, can this offense, can they handle being down 10 points? I don't think so. you know what? Sorry, I use that voice. I don't want to sound mean when I do it. I just have to use a different voice so you know that I'm quoting someone. Don't make me do the voice I do when it's my daughter. Or else I'd be saying, I think the Dolphins can come back. That's what I do whenever I do that. Just to know that.
I was going this way.
Yeah.
I go to Pittsburgh bad. June Boyer's husband never.
Yeah. So all I'm doing is trying to give. I don't want to mock too much because I'm not saying people were crazy when they say this stuff. But this team isn't set up to come back from 10 points out. And honestly, the first game or two of the season, I don't think they were. I think you're right. But that's how much they've grown. This team, I think they can come back from 10 points down. I think they even showed this game they could come back from 14 points down. They just aren't ready yet to come back from 17 points down.
Exactly. Yes.
Because they were down 17 points and came up 3 points short.
Yep.
And my goodness, if the defense doesn't give up 10 points in the fourth quarter, which is how much they had given up in an entire game all season, even if they gave up those 17 points to start, the Steelers still win that game if they don't give up 10 in the fourth quarter. Now, one thing you do have to, we can't brush off because the Steelers still had a chance to tie and even potentially in regulation win that game if they score a touchdown or whatever happens in overtime. But you had the play that took them out of it.
Yep.
And they say that there's 3 people involved.
If I've gone back and looked at it, I think that's right.
Believe it or not, I would, if I were to say the least person or the last person, the one that's the least blame, I would actually say Zach Frazier. Because he's supposed to do what he does when he gets the tap and go on the silent count. Because if he doesn't, there's a good chance the rest of the offensive line is going to jump off sides.
Yeah.
So did Justin Fields perhaps do the leg lift when he shouldn't have? I think he did it, but then wanted to try to stop it because they were trying to go fast. So he's trying to get it going. So he did it fast when the line was still making calls, which he shouldn't have done. But because he did it, then Mason McCormick does the tap, which is the signal for the silent count. Even though Zach Frazier was still making his call, he's like, I got tapped. I've got to snap it on the right silent count, or you're going to get the infamous offsides on everybody but the center call because he didn't snap the ball. But that's not supposed to happen while people are still making their calls. But the clock was running and you were hurrying. Maybe he wasn't. To me, the bigger thing that could have been to blame with him, I'm not saying it was, but it's a possibility, is that the call should have been done faster or something else simpler because the running clock, you're in the 2 minute and that you can't be taking that much time. The one thing I will say about Justin Fields on that, when you are trying to go fast and you know that you're trying to go fast, there should not be a reason that you wouldn't be ready for that ball.
Right. But what it was, he signaled ready for the ball, realized he shouldn't have because he heard Frazier then making calls and figures. Here's the issue. Thinks Frazier will finish his call and then snap the ball. So he takes his eye off for a second to get a last second read on the defense. Mistake.
Yeah.
You call for the ball, you better be ready for it.
Yes, absolutely.
So now,
here's the thing.
Here's
he
the
should
deal.
have been ready. Although I do understand he's trying to read the defense, but even if you're reading the defense, you can't forget like the ball could be coming. You just can't.
You have 3 younger players who've really not played as a unit much there.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. If that's the last time we see an issue like that, I'm okay.
Yeah.
If it continues to be a problem, then you can start to maybe point your finger to the coaching staff of not getting this figured out.
I will also say this. I'm trying to collect my thoughts to say it properly. I don't think that happens if they're not in the hurry up.
No, I don't think it does either.
Think about this. Has Mason this is the first time in a game that Mason McCormick was tapping Zach Frazier to snap it to Justin Fields. I don't know if we had that combination. Maybe, especially not in 2 minutes in the preseason. But that's the first time you're having that in a hurry up. So I don't want to make an excuse for it. It happened. And they don't have a lot of experience. But it can't happen again.
Yep.
Yep.
Look,
Pittsburgh says it great. Do routine things routinely and things of that nature. Now, can we say that it'll never happen again? No. Can we say that the Steelers would have still been able to at least tie the game if that wouldn't happen? No. I'm still frustrated that Najee Harris tried to get one more yard when they didn't need one more yard and therefore went backwards when he got hit backwards out of bounds and the clock's still running on third down. That was a mistake. Not taking your final timeout because that was potentially your final play of the game. I also understand you call a timeout there, you convert that fourth down, and you lose the game because you don't have the timeout. You're going to be second guessing that as well. But instead, you just take a timeout into the locker room and it didn't matter.
Right. You just put it in your pocket, and never used it.
Yeah.
You're like, you rolled the dice.
Yeah.
And you lost.
And I understand, well, we had you didn't want the defense to get set, but you know what? Your offense wasn't set.
The offense wasn't set either.
Your offense was still reeling after because the snap happened. They still needed to settle. I think a timeout could have settled them a little bit more there, even though you only had one.
Yep, I'd have taken the timeout there too, because you're talking young offensive lineman, a youngish quarterback. Get it together, because at that point in time, what the Steelers needed on 4th and 11 was their best play.
Yeah,
and everybody needed to be on the same page for that best play. Didn't happen.
Yes, because they had to go fast in a hurry up, and you know what? They were probably more worried about making sure they got the snap and everything right.
Yep.
If the clock's not running, you have time to make those calls, and you don't have to worry about that. So to me, yes, they should have called the timeout, but that's secondary to you've got to get when you're dealing with 3rd and 22. Does it matter if you're 4th and 11 or 4th and 10?
No.
Get out of bounds, Najee Harris.
Yeah.
That bothered me more than the other stuff with the running. Honestly, that one. You've got to be able
that
to.
Bothered me in some way. That bothered me as much as the bad snap situation.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. So, all right. So to kind of put a little bit of bow on it, the name of the show, the title of the show says one Steelers loss is not the end of the world. Yes, that was kind of in reference to Rich and I losing our mom this weekend, because it just goes to show that there's more things bigger than Steelers football. But we've kind of talked about it a ton, how the reason it's not the end of the world, if the Steelers learn things from this loss that gives them 2 more wins later, then it's not the end of the world. If it allows them to fix things now that will benefit them even more later, that's not the end of the world. Now, would another loss in there maybe cause it to happen? Yeah. It's really tough to go undefeated. It really stinks to lose a game where you're favored and you had every opportunity to win. You were on the road in a place that you don't have the most success winning there. And my goodness, Rich, they still almost came back and got that. I just have to. Anything you want to say to sum up the game as we then move to this week and the scores and everything?
Nope. Let's move on.
Okay. You don't want to before we move on, this is one last call. You still got them, right, Rich?
Unfortunately.
Okay. Anybody out there, great price, 2 tickets Sunday night, way better than what you can get on. I mean, I know some of the prices are coming down on Ticketmaster, but this doesn't have all the fees associated with it. Obviously, Rich and I are going through a lot to where Rich really can't afford to have to go to this game. So if someone would like 2 tickets to the Cowboys game at a reasonable price for it being the Cowboys game, remember. Make sure, please reach out to probably you're better off even reaching out to me on X at STLR Superfan Dad, or just add at gmail.com, and that's my email. Because we'll say it's $500 for the pair. That's what it is. And that's the super duper friends and family rate that's what we would give to anyone here. So if anyone thinks that you'd be available to go or know someone that would do it, spread the word real quick. Try to help us out with that one. What, Rich, coming up on Sunday? We didn't really turn the page to this one because of everything else. It's at home. It's in prime time. It's that classic matchup. Dallas has a lot of pimples as well, but yet they can be really dynamic. What do you feel about this matchup coming up?
If we get back to the Steelers defense that we saw in the first 3 weeks and not the Steelers defense we saw this past week, the Steelers will be fine. And the reason the Steelers will be fine is you got a lot less you have to fear from the Dallas defense right now.
Yes.
If you don't have Micah Parsons out there, that's huge for Dallas.
And Lawrence went on.
Yes. So you're talking about a couple of big names out of their defense. Now, that doesn't mean other guys from them can't step up and be that, but losing Micah Parsons for the Dallas Cowboys is like not having T.J. Watt for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
So really, to me, this game, I think, comes down to how does the Steelers defense
I got to ask you a quick question with that, though.
Okay.
Do you really think there's any chance he plays with a high ankle sprain?
Who?
He's really thinking he's going to play this week. I don't see any way that's going to happen.
I don't see either. Initial reports I was seeing was 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Minimum. And I've seen high ankle sprains take 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a guy that depends on that part
Even
of
if
their
he
body.
plays, he'd be a fraction of himself.
Yeah. So honestly, I'm going to go ahead and say I hope for the defense to bounce back and be better this week. If the defense bounces back and is better this week, I'm going to go out there and if you're ready, I'll give you the score of
I'm ready.
Of a Steeler victory, and I'm going to go with a Steeler victory of 20-12.
Ooh, you're going with 20-12. Now,
Yes.
Normally I wait and give my score and everything on the preview, so I don't have mine ready, but like I said, most likely I'm not going to be on the preview. That's the day of the funeral. I don't know that we'll be done everything in time. If I am for some reason on the preview, I'm going to have sets of antlers behind me and shots because it would have to be from your house.
Yep.
But I'll tell you right now, I'm going to pick the Steelers to win this game. Because I picked them to win this game when the schedule came out, and so far when the schedule came out, predictions have all come true. Even though I haven't picked them that way with each week, I'm going back to it until it fails me. I'm like, if that was my gut reaction, then I've got an extremely large gut. I should stick with it. It hasn't let me let me down so far. So because of that, I don't have my score yet. I haven't figured it out, but I will tell you now that I am going to pick the Steelers to win this game. So we put the scores out there in the live chat. We're already way over time-wise tonight, but you know what? This is what we wanted to do, so we're not going to worry about it, are we, Rich? So suck on that, Jeff Hartman. Too bad when you see that time running up there. All right, here we go. Steelers, Pittsburgh, 24-20. Remember, if you don't put a team, you're picking the Steelers. I missed it. Kathy Ford says 23-15. Steel Dog 88 has 28-17 Steelers. And much love to you, bros, and your mom. Thank you very much. Okay, thanks for all the condolences there in the live chat. I'm not going to be able to bring them all. We'll be here another hour, but we really appreciate our Steelers family. We really do. Mr. Woodside has Steelers 23-20. It keeps jumping on me when I go to click. David Poe has 27-16 Steelers. And he thinks the defense is going to put points on the board this week. Wes, happy birthday, Wes. 29-15 Pittsburgh. Let's see. There we go. Brian Brown has 27-17. Dak forgets what a Cowboys jersey looks like. So in other words, I think the Steelers are going to get off that 2 games in a row without any takeaways. Big G, Sean Gurley says, "Be blessed, fellas. Praying for your family." 28-17 Steelers. Haven't seen this name in here before. Have you? Jay's Upper Teeth.
Yeah, that's a new one.
Might be new to the show tonight. If that's great, welcome. If that's true, might even be sometimes people change their names. We don't know. Has 27-17 Steelers. Sherry Richards has 27-19 Steelers, and thank you, Sherry, for that. Brian Morrow says 23-17 Steelers. Frosty the Bear has 35-13. That will all. Wouldn't that feel great, Rich? After talk about Steelers Nation turning around, if that's the case, you'd see a 180 in a lot of the fan base if they could then do that to the Cowboys after losing that game to the Colts. See, I would be more tendency to not pick the Steelers if they would have won last week, in all honesty, because now I think you've definitely got to focus on turning around. Jamie Carlo has 24-17 Steelers. George Medina has Steelers 38-18. Oh, I'm going to mess this one up. Marin Miss.
I'd say.
I don't know. Rich, your phone's going off again. 21-7 Steelers.
Marine? It's a Marine. M-A-R-I-N-E.
Marine Misk. How did I miss that?
I don't know.
When there's no space, it messing me up. So unless my stuff's not loading, that's the last one I have.
That's the last one I see.
Yep. So this was a lot of fun. I'm going to say it again. Thank you all so much. This was really good for Rich and I to come back and do this show. It really was. We chose that this is what we wanted to do. Just been, all dealing with arrangements and things that everything is going on with the family. Making sure our dad's doing good, not overwhelming him, making decisions. Remember, Rich and I each have. Not each. We have 2 sisters as well. So it's the 4 of us and our dad that are handling this, and it was really nice to talk a lot of Steelers. Okay, Tom Vallejo says 31-17 Cowboys. He wants to jinx those Cowboys by picking them. I will say this: we've been around with family a lot in the last few days, and we still manage to talk plenty of Steelers, don't we, Rich?
Oh yes,
not just you and I, with everything. I'll be honest with you. Gavin Anthony says Steelers 24-23, but really wants to say that it really kind of depends on the injury report, and thanks for your kind words. Tyler W has 28-21 Steelers as well. Just to tell a little bit of a story, even though we're running over, our mom passed away. It was Saturday evening. Rich, you had already had dinner. Because
I had not.
Oh, you claimed you did because you had ice cream. But you also knew you had dinner waiting at home for you.
I knew I had dinner waiting at home. That's why I used the excuse.
So, after taking care of everything at the nursing home where my mom was, my dad hadn't eaten, and my sister's like, "You need to eat." She's like, "Let's go." So a group of us, it was my dad, myself, my sister, and my sister's son, our nephew, who now is living at your house to go to college. We went out to dinner, and it was just hours after losing our mom. And you know what my dad wanted to talk about? He wanted to ask me questions about the Steelers and the quarterback situation and how they're going to handle this. And this was before the game Sunday. That's our family. That's just how we are. That even in while my mom was still alive and my dad and I were just visiting while she was resting, she just liked to hear us talk. We talked about a lot of stuff, but of course you know what that was going to include. It was also the Steelers. So that's just kind of how it is, and that's just kind of how we are. So that's what has been so nice for you all. I'm going to miss not doing the other shows. It just doesn't fit in time wise. But Rich, this is your show, and we got to do it. So I'm really glad we were able to do that. What would you like to say to close us out here tonight, Big Bro?
Hey, as much as we all wanted to win last week, it didn't happen. just remember the sky's not falling. Okay.
I actually put that in the description.
There were some things we really didn't like seeing in that game. Yes, there were, but there were some things that were good to see in that game as well. So let's not forget that. I mean, it comes back to what we're talking about this time of year, every year when the Steelers lose a game. Clean it up. Clean up the mistakes. And get back and get things going in the correct direction. Okay? That's all it takes. First opportunity for the Steelers to do that comes this Sunday night. Could come at the hands of the Dallas Cowboys. You know, the Steelers have made a living through the years of you know, getting things right and taking care of the Dallas Cowboys. Only, you know, how many times we played Dallas in the Super Bowl? Three.
And we
2-1.
meatloafed it.
What's that?
We meatloafed it. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
2 out of 3 ain't bad. Well, you know, Donald could remember which color jerseys the Steelers were wearing. We maybe, you know, go 3.
We could take another hour talking about that one.
Yes, we could. So, but you know, whoever put that 35-13 score, whatever it was that was up there, and you were like, man, wouldn't that change things? Sure, it would. All it takes is one game for the Steelers to come back around, get things cleaned up, get it right. They come back this week and play a really good game and get a win. Probably all's forgiven.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking for. So still don't know where I'm going to be for this game because if push comes to shove, I'm going to have to go up there. So I got to be prepared for that. And if that's the case, I will figure that out. But one way or the other, come Sunday night, I'm going to be cheering on for the Steelers in the black and the gold. Can't wait.
You gotta just chill out, man.
Can't wait.